Hello, good afternoon, good morning. Let's give it a minute. Hope you can hear me, hope you can see me. Hello again. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I appreciate it. If you don't know who I am, my name is Ilani Tappelfeld, and I'm an IP specialist. I help companies increase their company value through IP. And the reason I'm doing this event today is that I had many conversations with CEO, clients, and friends about fundraising in this time, and many things come up. A lot of pressure and things that came up in the conversations in safe rounds and down rounds, and unmet milestones and not enough sales. And I felt that there was something that, that didn't come up in the conversations, and that something is intellectual property. And I was thinking to myself, in these times, intellectual property needs to be discussed, and it needs to be used in a conversation in different ways. And my goal for this event today is to hopefully give you some tools to talk about IP in a more of an engaging way and more effective way, so that you can use it in all types of conversations. This is for you if you're a CEO, if you're a founder of a company who want to use your IP in a better way to talk about your value. If you're a corporate attorney helping your companies to talk about your company that you're representing, or if you want to just learn how to talk about IP more effectively. So by the end of this, you'll probably have some better way to talk about your IP. I have my notes here, so I'll refer to them. And let's start. I'll start by giving some context about what a down round is, and maybe then dive into ways to talk about your IP more effectively, especially in a down round, and especially when the pressure is on and there's a knife to your throat, and we need to talk about value. So what's a down round? A down round is a financing round where a company raises funds at a lower valuation than the previous round. So this means that the new investors or the new buyers buy shares at a lower price than what the previous investors paid. And down rounds are painful because investors, there's a sentiment that maybe the previous valuation was too high, and it's painful for employee morale because employees feel that it's demotivating and employee stock options are worth less. And exactly at this time, it's critical to find ways to talk about your IP. And what I want to talk to today is 3 ways to talk about your IP to increase investor confidence. And let's start with the first way. So the first way, and if anything resonates with you, please message me. I'm talking about challenges of clients and friends, and I learn from your comments and I bring it back. The next slide is also going to be in a similar theme. So let's talk about the first way to talk about your IP, and that's go deeper. And what do I mean by that? Think about your patents and what didn't go into the patents. Think about all of your development activities and efforts since your last patent was filed. Think about all of your development activities since the last financing round. When you focus on your developments, all your development activities, and we help you decide what's commercially valuable, or your IP expert can help you decide what's commercially valuable, then these activities and aspects, especially if they can be recognized as IP, then they're indicators of company progress. And you want to be transparent with your investor, and you want to show progress. And it's important to talk about development activities and not just a patent that was filed previously, because at the end of the day, and especially if you don't have sales, IP is a major return on investment. And It can help you justify the salaries paid for R&D, and it can help you in giving your investors the feeling that you're updating them and you're being transparent. And basically, it gives them the company another tool. I mean, you meet an investor, the investor has their team needs to evaluate the opportunity. It's really helpful to have some kind of, to produce a document that lists your assets, and maybe some of them are recognized as IP. And I think that, when you describe as your competitive advantage only your patents, and you don't spell out the progress that you've done since the patent was filed or since the last investment round, you're really creating a gap between the value that you've created and what you're representing to your investors. So think about breaking down your assets and sharing the story with your assets. Okay, so not just, we have algorithms to help us to manipulate our data, but say also that the story behind how did you reach these insights? What are the challenges that the founder faced? What are the special insights that the founders have that other competitors don't have? Try and talk about the story surrounding the IP. And then for certain assets that were recognized as IP that provide you with a competitive advantage or give you some kind of barrier to entry, you want to show that you have a plan to protect them. And when you're able to produce a list, an organized list of everything that provides you with a competitive advantage, it makes it very easy for investors to understand where you are. And not to mention, that you're ready for your due diligence. And when the due diligence comes in and the request comes in, you're ready with a list of all your IP assets, or at least what you've identified. And not only does it give you more value, and it's as if you multiply your IP asset. You don't necessarily multiply them, but you have a lot more to show. And it's a value that I see that's being missed when mapping is not done. So that was the first way. Just have a sip of water. Go deeper. Now, the second way to talk about your IP more effectively is zoom out of the core IP and highlight what sets you apart from your competition. But do that in the areas of your team, the market, and the tech. And obviously, you're going to talk about the team, the market, and the tech. But when you talk about the progress that you've made, the progress that you've done, and when you talk about it in a more intentional way, then you do it in the areas that you're unique. And then you provide the broader context that is impacted by the IP. So let me give you an example. Say, for example, you talk about the team. So what makes the team an authority in the space? Show the progress of how the team is being acknowledged and recognized by the industry. What challenges is a team, what are the challenges that the team arrived at and met, and how do they react to these challenges? How do they take these challenges and make the product better? What are the plans to do that? And then when you talk about the tech, what makes your product perform in a better way? Has the product been validated? Can you show that the product is performing better? Do you have a letter or even testimonial from your client? And then when you speak about the market, talk about how can you show that your efforts into the market are successful? What evidence are there that you're on your way to finding product market fit? And product market fit is a very big term, but what can you show in terms of evidence, in terms of relationship that you have in the market, in terms of pilots that are underway and are getting great results? So the point here is that the investors are going to hear, they're going to see all your slides, and they're going to see all your achievements, but they're not necessarily going to bring it back to your IP, right? And by presenting things the right way, the team, the market, and the tech, and concentrating on the progress of how you're unique against your competition, then you're showing the bigger picture, but how it relates to the IP. And the obligation is on you to express and to make these connections. So it's on you to explain how these advantages set you apart in the market. It's up to you to present the way in such a way that will reflect on your IP. And sometimes it's nuances. Sometimes it's just a way you present the company and present the story. And this is like, the IP is like the backbone of your story. It needs to be at the core. And, I want to give you an example of a call I had this week with a client who's a CEO of a company. He was invited by the investors to come into the company. And we had a chat about the IP, and he said, Ilanit, the only value that I have right now, the only value that I feel that I have in the company is the value of my runway, of my survivability. And, he was cynical, and I know there's a lot of stress in the system, and he's given a lot of tasks by the investors, and he needs to cut burn rate, and he needs to increase sales. And I completely understood where he was coming from, but it was a little worrying to me, because this statement of the only value is my runway, it can influence the way that a company is presenting itself to investors, right? And when you start to move away from your core message, which is basically going back to the founder's vision, then you start to lose direction. So it's not just how to present your IP. It's at the core of your company. The founder's vision is at the core of the company. So the IP should also be, at least a foundational IP is at the core. And then you start seeing, what is the thing that gives you competitive advantage, and how you use it to tell your story when talking to investors. So this conversation was very telling of the situation, but provided me a lot of focus. And if you think about it, if you look at innovation authorities, if you look at the Israeli Innovation Authority and the European Innovation Authority, and you look at their application forms, it's all about connecting the activities to the IP. It's all about how the IP relates to how the company is doing marketing, and what features of the product are protected by IP. And it's all the foundations are there. And I think, innovation authorities have become very tough investors. And I think taking their application forms and seeing, how they ask, what they ask, if you're able to cross the things off and show how you measure up to these answers, these are the answers that your investors want to see. And at the end of the day, tying it to your IP is really, really important. So we spoke about the first way of going deeper. Then we spoke about the second way to talk about your IP and its focus out of the core IP, and talk about the team, market, and tech. And the third way to talk about IP is to tie it to valuation principles. So try and provide benchmarks to consider how different valuations can be used to show your value. So, for example, let's take the foundational level. So the foundation is to talk about the cost of, what are the investments that you've made? What is the cost that you've put into producing your product? So, for example, you've been developing the product for 5 years, and there's 5 developments or more along the way that came, and you can add up the salaries by years, by months, by level of seniority to show how much money you've put into the investment of the product. And that would give investors some kind of indication to the level of investment you've made in the product. But this is just a foundational way. So if you think about it, if you build a house, and if you had to build this house again, how much money would that cost you? And you want to take that and provide a reference to what you put into this house that you built. And then, because this is the foundational way, you need to combine it with other ways, such as the market approach, because if we only talk about the cost, we're not counting the market potential of the IP or the revenue generating potential. So we need to provide the outside benchmarks. So we look at other companies that have been acquired and see the prices. So think about it this way. If you can talk about another company that was being acquired for $100 million and you can somehow compare the products, maybe you can say that your house, maybe you can say that your product is better because it has this and this capabilities and features. But just like selling a house, you would look at other houses sold in your neighborhood, in houses with similar features, with similar technologies, to provide some kind of benchmark of what your house could be sold for. And then there's a third approach to valuation, and that's the income approach. So you could also, if you had pilots and you knew what the pilots would bring in, you could also talk about the money that's projected to come in, or the present value of the agreements that you have as pilots, and discount them along the way. So for example, if you had a few pilots and these pilots would be bringing in X amount of revenue over the past 5 years, there's some kind of formula that you could discount because of the risk involved and come up with a number that represents the present value. So I'm not going to go into the formula, but it's another example of another way that you can use to provide value and provide another tool to talk about the value of your IP. So, to conclude, we spoke about 3 ways to talk about your IP more effectively. Go deeper and show the progress. Show additional IP assets that provide you with a competitive advantage. We talked about, show how your IP fits into the bigger picture of the team, the market, and the tech. And 3, use benchmarks when you talk about your IP value. And when presenting your IP, remember that focusing only on patents is only a snapshot of what you've achieved. And think about the IP like a rainbow, and think that there's clouds under this rainbow. There's the patent cloud, and then there's another cloud that's like a trademark cloud that represents the value of your brand. There's the design patent or design cloud that represents protecting your UI UX. Maybe there's a trade dress cloud, but then there's another cloud, and there's another cloud that needs to be talked about, and that cloud represents your expertise and your unique advantage and insights. So all these insights and expertise, as translated to your IP, should definitely be discussed and presented as assets. And your investors are looking to see these things, and it's on you to present these things. And we see it with the companies that have in negotiations, and we see acquirers coming to companies and say, we look at your patents, we like what we see, but we're sure that the patent is just there's so much there, right? There's so much under the hood. So have you mapped your activities? Have you protected your internal processes? So we see it in agreements, we see it in conversations, and definitely something that can help you increase investor confidence if you come and show that you've done the work and you know what you're worth and what provides you with this barrier to entry. So I hope this has given you a few things to think about and a few more tools. And if you want to hear about our process, we have a process of three stages when we work with you hand in hand to map, protect, and present your IP assets. And remember that presenting your IP the right way can dramatically increase your chances with investors, dramatically can increase investor confidence. And the IP is not just legal protection, it's a critical part of your success story. Thank you all. See you soon. Bye-bye.